then what I did is I put these four, the hubris, catharsis, metanoia, sparagmos, I put them on the etheric body, so you see where they happen, right? I mean, the movement you do is always out of passion into compassion, but hubris is experienced in the lust of the front of the second chakra. Catharsis is experienced in the kidney cleansing in the back of the second chakra. And then in the sixth chakra, the devil mind is the left brain, is the sparagmos. It tries to break everything into pieces in order to understand it. And that's, you need to move to metanoia to really cognize who you are and how you need to be behaving at a given moment. The sparagmos, this breaking things down into myriad details, creates more confusion in planning. We call it analysis paralysis, right? You have so many pieces, you are no longer able to deal with anything or understand. You know, if you do a list of pros and a list of cons, and you're not trying to see, do I have 10 on one side and 3 on the other? You're trying to see which are the heaviest, which are the biggest reasons to move this way or that way. If all you're doing is try to see, oh, I have 10 reasons on one side, 3 on the other, I'll do the 10 reasons side. That's the wrong way to think. For me, a change, I'm a Virgo, right? And Virgos love detail. And an awakening moment for me was this story where you have this philosopher who teaches a class, and he has these 3 big urns, or 1 per student, and he brings these big rocks and he tells the students to put the rocks in the urn, and then he says, are they full? Yes, they're full. But he brings them smaller stones. They can put the stones, same thing. Are they full? Yes, they're full. Then he brings them gravel. Then he brings them sand. Are they full? Absolutely, they're full. Then he brings them water. And you can keep pouring in as long as you're going to a smaller density. And then he says, okay, what have you learned? And they say, well, that you think it's full, but it isn't, and there's always room for more. He says, no, you've learned that it's important to put the large rocks in first, right? And with decision making, that is very important. And that is the difference between the metanoia mind and the sparagmos mind. Okay, so this etheric body it's a universal thing. It's you can find that structure if you look in story, in prayer, in a number of systems that speak of the esoteric world. So I show some examples here. David Hawkins, for me, that was, I loved reading the research he did. He was a scientist in New York in the 90s, and he built this system of a range from 0 to 1,000. And he used kinesiology to calibrate anything into that range. It's a very easy system to use, because all you need to do is say, in a range from 0 to 1,000, where 200, where truth ranks at 200, and an avatar ranks at 1,000, where is this? And this could be a piece of music, a book, a person. So you can calibrate what frequency they're at. Now, if you go on the web and you look him up, they show these levels against the 7 chakras. And I don't agree with the ranking they do, because 700, enlightenment, is the 7th chakra. So to me, enlightenment happens in the 5th. And if you calibrate, like 0 would be 0 to 100 is in the Kabbalah state. So once you're in 100, you are in the first chakra, the lowest node. The range of 200 and 300 occurs in the 2nd chakra. 400 is the range of reason. That's the solar plexus prison, and most people get caught in that. A lot of people who think they are enlightened are really caught in that because they're still trying to reason out that enlightenment. Then he describes 500, 550 would be joy, 600 is peace, that's what I call compassion. And then he does not give descriptions for the enlightenment nodes, right? But he has written several books in which he describes each of these levels, and he describes the calibration tests he did. And I found it amazing how well that matched what I was seeing inside me. And I often, like, if I hear a piece of music on the radio and it's bothering me, I calibrate it. And sure enough, it falls in the 200 or below. And if I find something that makes me feel wonderful, it's 500 or above. So I mention it here because I think his work was amazing. He did exactly what I did not do, which is test everything. And so in a way, I feel that his testing and my insight match. So it gave me a lot of peace about what I was seeing inside me. Have you guys come across him?
No, I haven't before.
He's written books like Force versus Power. So he talks how up to 200 you use force, and once you are in the realm of truth, you can turn that force into power, which is exactly what martial arts do, right? You take the force of your opponent and it becomes your power. And as you defend yourself. He's written the eye of the eye, meaning the I, letter I of the eye, meaning what you look from. He's written about truth versus falsehood. I find it very interesting, and he has a lot of Q&A that is enlightening. So for example, he answers a question, what is the Holy Ghost? I think that is the most difficult question to answer. What is the Holy Ghost, right? And his answer is, what is the one to the all? And I thought this is such a wonderful answer. It's very abstract still, or metaphysical, but it's a wonderful way to look at it that way. So I really recommend you check out his work. It's worthwhile.
I've actually bought the book Eye of the Eye, and I went through. Whenever I go to trainings and stuff, and they talk about books that intrigue me, I buy them, and I have this library of books I haven't even touched yet, and I believe that's one of them. But I will definitely look it up again and read that.
So maybe when you retire, you'll get to them, and maybe there'll be no more books by then. So you'll be happy to have them. All right. In the New Testament, and I haven't put references here to the Bible because I remember these sentences from growing up and going to church, right? They're mentioned in multiple gospels, with a little different wording each time. But in essence, let the one with no sin cast the first stone against the woman who had committed adultery. That aligns with the harness in the sixth chakra. Don't judge another, because if you do, chances are you're judging yourself because you see yourself in the other. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That is the harness of the fourth chakra. And when affronted, turn the other cheek. That is the harness of the second chakra. And in the next slide, I have the prayer to our Father and how it aligns. And to me, it was amazing to find esoteric ritual in Christianity and how much that aligned to the Eastern traditions. And I talked to you about the Good Friday lamentations and the Kundalini leaving the temple and coming back in again, after 33 hours for the resurrection. But here, our Father who art in heaven is in the seventh chakra. The next two sentences have to do with the sixth. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. The kingdom of heaven is what replaces the devil mind once we are our own master. It's not a kingdom that happens out there. It happens inside our being. And it's our own work that makes that happen. And if you ask me what's the purpose of all this, it's to find the kingdom of heaven inside you. Thy will be done is the fifth. On earth as it is in heaven. In Greek, it's reversed, right? You say in heaven as on earth. That is the upper and lower fourth. Give us this day our daily bread. That's the digestive third. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and is the back of the second, where the kidneys and the adrenals, where we cleanse. Lead us not into temptation is the front of the second that has all these desires. And then the last sentence in Greek is not deliver us from evil. It is deliver us from treachery. And I say here the grip of treachery to indicate that the way the sentence is in Greek, it doesn't mean save us from the treacherous people, save us from the other treacherous, right? It's deliver us from committing treachery. And I think that is so important. And why was it ever mistranslated? And how far it has taken Christianity away from the message of Christ. I find it really, really sad.
I think that the last part's really interesting to me. So in translation, they flipped it to deliver us from evil, is I think how I was taught. Deliver us from the
and that's
tree. So deliver us basically from ourselves doing
becoming
those
treacherous
things that would keep us down, to keep us from ascending.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I don't know, I think maybe my next project will be to expose all of these mistranslations, because everywhere I turn, I find like, oh my gosh, here's another one.
I would find that extremely fascinating, because I was always curious about that. And you hear about the books that have been kept from us as well, that that we don't have to go
yeah,
back.
the other gospels,
Yeah.
the Apocrypha. Yeah, there must have been a gospel written for every sign of the zodiac. There must be 12 gospels altogether.
That
And
would be interesting
this,
too. Looking at the gospels that we know about and how they align to the astrological sign. That would be also fascinating to.
and they align to the perspective of that component of the zodiac, right? I mean, we look at astrology in a very basic secular way right now. It used to be a very sacred tool that was used in mystical schools to teach how to take the different perspectives. So you can, in a 360-degree circle, you can take 12 perspective at least. I mean, it's up to you how you divide the circle. We divided it in 4 previously, but 12 is the mystical level, looking at the 12 perspectives. So, and here I show this against Qi Gong. And this is a more esoteric teaching behind martial arts, which is that you have 3 dantians, and they align to these dual chakras or dual levels. And you start at the bottom, you start with the forms, and forms are the exercises you do in Qigong or Tai Chi or push hands, where you prepare for martial arts by learning simple movements, which you then combine when you go into a fighting exercise, right? And the idea of exercising these forms is you seek perfection in the movement, and that allows you to plug your leaks, because it's those leaks that make you weak, right? When you feel a weakness, you have a leak somewhere, and building perfection brings you to integrity. So all of that exercise in the second chakra of Qigong and the martial arts and Tai Chi, it teaches you integrity, and along with it balance, right? And how to change force into power. And the idea in Qigong is that you drive your Qi, you drive your energy with your mind. You don't just let it be or let it go wherever. You are very purposeful in every movement. And it's always a very concentrated aim. So the 4th level is that of freedom. And here you need to open up your heart from every judgment and attain to unattachment and compassion. And that's the level of acceptance. And the upper dantian is where you learn to drive your mind and have your mind move the parts of the body in synergy. And that's the level of flow that you attain in the 6th chakra. So I thought this was an interesting, another parallel. And actually, a lot of the validation of me experiencing those dual levels came from studying Qigong and the philosophy behind it, right? Because they constantly work on these 3 dantian. And it makes sense. I believe that's what we have to do, because if you think of the vertical middle line that takes first, third, fifth, and seventh chakra. Those are God-given. Now, the fifth is asleep until we recognize our truth and our responsibility and all that. But the three we work with is the jewel. You always work on the second, the fourth, and the sixth.
So is it possible to master the lower and upper and not have the middle completely mastered?
Yeah, the middle is usually the last.
Okay, we're almost trained to judge stuff, you know, and you know, I work very hard not to judge, but it's almost, you know, and you're always looking at things and comparing and yeah. I look at that and think that that's probably the hardest one for me to master. And I want to, you know, I try to, but yeah, I think that's hard.
Distinguish judgment and discernment for people, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because you are in the practice of
Discernment is
discerning.
different, right? This discernment is not judgment. Discernment builds awareness, right? But don't.
But I think we're taught judgment when we should be taught discernment.
Isn't it the act of judging when you're discerning? I mean, it's
read-
very
right.
close.
No,
No,
judging is attaching something to good or evil, right or wrong. That's what they mean by judging. To discern, of course you need to discern. Like if you're a martial artist, you need to discern the movement of your enemy in order to defend yourself, right? But if your enemy moves this way or that way, don't judge him as stupid or good, or don't put a label on him.
well, I think that when I think of discernment too, it's discerning what feels true to you. You know,
That's fine. That's fine. The hardest thing for us is to move away from the notion of good or evil.
Yeah, that's very difficult.
Because this is unlearning I was talking about, right? The second and the sixth are truly those pairs of horses that you can rein in to run your chariot the proper way. The fourth is different because it's diagonal and it's upper and lower, and it has to do totally with your ability to align vertically with the axis mundi, or the spirit line, and that takes us a while. And I think that's why a lot of the seekers end up with back problems, because they're aligning faster than the body can adjust, right? I don't think the other examples I have are as so the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Those are so easy to remember, and they are so good. I find them really good. Make no assumptions, always hold your word, take nothing personally, and always try your best. So if you do these four, chances are you're not on the vicious circle. But the minute you don't, like, make no assumptions is the equivalent to not judge, right? You're assuming somebody's evil, you're assuming somebody's stupid when you call them that.
What's interesting here is these are the other four chakras. The
Right.
slide before are the ones that with duality, which is the second, fourth, and sixth, and this fills in the rest of the 7 chakras. It's interesting.
Right. And then this is just to be funny, the Wizard of Oz. Again, it has these 3 characters, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Lion. And each of them. So this is, I did this wrong, actually. The Lion aligns to the 4th and the Tin Woodman to the 2nd. I don't know why I made that mistake, but
I think that was right, Marina, wasn't it?
you're right. It was correct.
Yeah.
The reason I was confused is lion symbolically aligns to the heart when you think of the metaphor of the different chakras. No, you're right.